allow me to introduce our second speaker, who will talk about guide development for flexible learning and teaching, specifically course modules and course guides. She has earned her undergraduate and master's degrees at the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, formerly MUST, where she graduated with a bachelor's degree in industrial education, major in mathematics, and a master of science in teaching mathematics, respectively. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy and Education in Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan. She was part of the Xavier University Center for the Advancement in Teaching, or SUCAT, for 6 years. She has conducted numerous seminars, workshops, and advanced research statistics, assessment of learning methods, test construction of all types, research-based teaching strategies, to name a few. Some of her recognitions include an award from um, XUADC Magis Award for Outstanding Administrator in 2012, Outstanding Alumni in the Field of Education in 2015 from Pilgrim Christian College. Currently, she is the director of the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, or CITL, of the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Amparo Vidua Dinagsao. Ma'am?
Good morning. Good morning. I hope everything is clear and coming clear to you, Mama Mapola.
Yes, you're clear. Your presentation is also clear.
Thank you very much. So this morning, we will discuss about writing the course module and the course guide. And I'd like to thank Mama Moore, our colleague from Capital University, who gave us a vast list of teaching learning activities, which we are really going to consider when we're writing our module. All right. So this is going to be our outline. So I'll talk about a little bit on flexible learning so that we have some sort of leveling of how do we really understand flexible learning, what does it look like, and all that. And I'll have a little definition based from our Republic of Distance Education, and why is it connected with flexible learning. And then some principles that we're going to use when we are preparing our course module, and and then we'll move to writing our course module. What's the format? What should we put in our course module? No? So basically, just to give a background, of course, our situation in this pandemic forces us to consider other means of delivery of instruction. But as we have already emphasized, campus may be closed, but learning must not stop. No, and when we are preparing this distance education or this flexible learning and this different mode of delivery of our instruction, we will really very big consideration are the situations of our students. We have students who have no problem with internet and gadget. We have some students who have gadget but without the connection, and then we have students with connection or with gadget but without connection because their area may not really be reached by some signal, and we have these students who have really no connection at all, no gadget and nothing. So these are things we need to consider when we're planning for our flexible learning, no? But maybe we have to agree first that, we have to accept that nothing we do in remote learning will be the same as in-person school. So, tama na po yung debate na mas kada magiging face-to-face and all that, because really, nothing beats that, no? But this time, we have to do something because we are already in this situation where we cannot risk the safety of our students as well as of our faculty. So for flexible learning, So what we're seeing is that there's no face-to-face classes, no residential. You can have, of course, face-to-face, but there's computer, no? So there's no residential or in-person classes anymore. So maybe some of our HEIs can consider online classes, but I guess in this part of the country, online classes may kind of be difficult because we have kind of intermittent signal. So it may not really be for most of our institutions here, not really pure online because we are also considering our students, not only our institution as well as only our faculty, but our students. Are they really connected to the internet? So maybe our flexible learning is using our LMS, no? Learning management system, could be a Moodle, could be a Blackboard, could be Google Classroom, where it could be your way of delivering your resources to the students. So students can download the resources and submit the requirements through this LMS. And in this flexible learning, since wala na tayo in front of our students where there's a quiz and you're looking at them, and then you can also consider, you can proctor, no? And so because we're not there anymore, maybe there's a need to look into assessments that are authentic and performance-based, no? And so in this flexible learning, you can do live or synchronous sessions. But because our students, not all of them are connected and so maybe live sessions may be done for high instructor presence, as what Ma'am Amor is have presented, no, to strive for teaching presence. Hindi yung we just send our module and that's it. That you're not even heard. So again, for an effective flexible learning or distance education, they need
Doc
to,
Amphi,
yes,
may I
for your feedback. We sent it through Zoom. So even if it becomes blurry, maybe some have their own platform.
it's clear na po this time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This is a challenge, no, when we do our classes. So again, I was into how do we view, no, flexible learning? In consideration of our students, maybe our faculty may do live sessions or synchronous through Zoom, through Facebook Live, through a messenger. However, since our students do not have, not all of them have that connectivity, our faculty may record that, no? And so that our students will be able to view your discussion, your feedbacking at the time when they have the opportunity. And of course, because of this situation, courses may need to be redesigned to focus on non-negotiable course outcomes. So may we go to the next slide. Next slide, Sir Mark. Thank you for the assistance. All right. So just click, Sir Mark. So distance education is a mode of learning in which students, get back to the previous slide, please. Previous slide. So basically the point of the distance education is that there's a separation between students and teachers, no? And that it has to be student-centered and guided independent study. Let me just highlight that, guided independent study. So we don't meet now face-to-face, no? So therefore, we have to make use of well-studied teaching and learning pedagogies, and that the delivery of these materials should be in various media. So why are we considering this? Because flexible learning is, so the distance learning is a modality of flexible learning. And so we consider the principles as well of distance education. So now that we are separated, what will students hold? What will students see? No? What will students deal with? Or what will they, what will replace our face-to-face interaction would be our module. So may we proceed to the next slide. Therefore, there's a need to prepare our course modules. So when we design our flexible learning courses, no, it's not just a replication of face-to-face. And that's why there's a need to redesign our course syllabus, because that was designed before using a face-to-face or blended. So we need to also provide an equivalent experience. Remember that we did not change the curriculum. We also have the same program outcomes, but this time different delivery. The activities must also encourage interaction. And if the technology fails, there has to be an alternative means. No? You can also write that in our course module. What happens if the learning management system cannot be accessed, or there's an error, or there's a bug down of something? No? And of course, when we are now designing our flexible learning course or our subject, it involves creating modules. But these modules, the content should be in digestible pieces. Because again, this will be what our students will get hold of. Diba? So let's proceed to the next. So how do we design now our flexible learning modules? First, in distance learning, the physical presence of the teachers is replaced by the learning material. Remember that in our classes, we're the ones who will determine what is to be learned, and we also provide information. We also give examples, we explain, we also ask questions, we set learning tasks, we provide marks and feedback, we provide other resources, we give how to be successful in studying this particular course. But in this setup now, in our flexible learning, the faculty's task will be carried out by our module. So our module will do all this. No, the module will be the ones providing the information. The module will be the ones which will give examples, who will do the explaining, which will do the questioning and all that. Okay? So it's important that we prepare a module that really is more conversational. So how will we and where will we start? Next slide, Sir Mark. There's an emphasis. Why prepare a module? Why not just give a, a syllabus and just give a textbook? Oh, simply because there is really no teacher presence anymore. We make our presence felt, but of course, this is remote learning. And so the textbooks usually are designed for face-to-face. Proceed to the next, please. So what exactly is a module? So a module is a unit or a chapter or a topic or a segment of instruction. No? So it's an instructional section of your course that is self-contained. What do you mean by self-contained? Meaning that learners can pick up or they can access the module based on clear instructions, and they would exactly know what to do because it's very clear. And of course, a week is a common module length. No? You would see that in a lot of the researches and literature. It could be by topic or by unit, but the common length of a module is per week or weekly module. Proceed to the next. So before we even start and write our course module, we need to prepare the redesigned syllabus. So yesterday we were taught about what are the things to look into, and so as what Ma'am Amor cited, our chair, Chair De Vera, no? It also is this time is also an opportunity to look back, to innovate, to maybe reinvent, no? And it's also an opportunity to revisit. In the past ba talaga, our course outcomes have been aligned to program outcomes, and of course yesterday it was made clear how do we do that, no? By Engineer Marsilio. Next slide, Sir Mark. So that was an example yesterday. How do we cross-check? Just an emphasis lang po that when we're writing our course outcome, we can revise because that's within our control as faculty. We can actually create our revise our course outcomes because we're considering flexible learning. However, we do not have the discretion to change the program outcomes there because those are approved by our board, you know. And so, and also we're not changing the list of the subjects because we are not changing the curriculum. We're just considering another delivery mode of our instruction. So maybe this is an opportunity to cross-check your course outcomes, and if your subject or course says that this particular program outcome should be demonstrated, should be enabled in your subject, or should be introduced in your subject. That's why you have the IED there. No? Next slide. So the constructive alignment should be very much considered. So that's why we begin with the revisiting revising or redesigning your syllabus. So the course outcomes. So we have written our course outcomes. We have already considered the assessments, and then what would be our teaching learning activities. Next slide. Okay. So again, the approved curriculum dictates the content and the resources, not the other way around. Okay. Next. So this was already presented yesterday, just an emphasis that you need to redesign the syllabus. So when we're writing our course module, again, just really, an emphasis on considering the student's context. So when we are preparing our course module later, literacy level of the students, no, maybe they need to be tutored on using the Google form, using the Google Drive, and all that. So if we're going to consider in our module that they're going to create a video and all that, what if they do not have those materials available for them? They do not have the mobile phone. So maybe these are things that we need to consider when we're preparing our course modules, no? ICT skills, their prior knowledge as well, availability to technology, their situation, and their circumstances. Why am I highlighting that? Because maybe the module will require our students will require your students to interview or go to a market and all that, but in that particular area, it's still GCQ or ECQ, so these are things that we need to consider. Next. Okay, so again, when we structure our module, it has to be logical. No? The steps reflect occupational steps, no, for some of our disciplines, and then they also consider prerequisite knowledge, and logical meaning that it is from basic to advanced, to abstract and all that, no? And then self-contained, as I've emphasized a while ago, no? It's easy to follow, it's easy it's really a very good guide for our students, and it's comprehensive as well, meaning that the module includes all of the content that is relevant to the learning objectives and competencies, and cohesive, that our module is well integrated. No? They contribute to the learner's mastery of the competencies within a reasonable time. No? Next slide. So when we structure our module weekly, has to be this. So let's maybe consider weekly, but of course your institution may decide on some other structure like per unit or per topic and all that. But this is usually, when you read in literature, weekly is more manageable from our students. No? So these are what is in each of the weekly module. So say for example, week 1, it should include course details, or the weekly module number 1, the ILOs. It should include introduction and rationale, engaging activities, and presentation of new materials. There's an opportunity for students to do exercises, to practice, to apply, and then there has to be assessment and some additional resources. No? So in every module. But let's discuss a bit on each of those. What are we really going to write in each of those? So next slide. But before I proceed to the next, what we're going to write in each of those parts, we are sending you, if you request, a sample course module template and course guide that you can, your university, your institution, your college may have. You can email us at citl@ustp.edu.ph. I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, the center head of CITL of USTP, Mr. Narvasa, for preparing this module. No? So you can, we'll send this to you. Looks like USTPs, but we already design it so that you can also just put your name of your university. So we'll place there, put your logo here. So our staff can also send you this copy. No? Next. So the course module, next, and the course guide. Okay, so you can have your copy and then a template. Okay, so in each of the course module, what will be in each of the course modules? So we have the course details, no, the weekly module number, so that it's easy to follow. And then after that, we can write our ILOs. Hinahinay lang, Sir Mark. I'm still in the previous slide. Okay, remember that in the syllabus per topic, we have intended learning outcomes. So in this part of the module, we have to also include that we have to write and be clear with our students what they're about to demonstrate, okay, in this particular week or at the end of this module. So that you have to write the ILOs, okay? And of course, for every weekly module, we have to put introduction or rationale. So give an overview, ask students, or you can also ask students to take a pretest. That's part of the overview, the introduction, no, and the rationale. So this is also acknowledging prior knowledge of our students. So what's the next part of our weekly module? Next slide. Then you can also have the engaging activities. No? So in this part of the module, give preliminary activity that sends a message that there's something in it for them. No? Why do they need to learn the material? So write an engaging activity there. So you can have space where you can also ask a question or their prior I don't know, so their prior knowledge on something, no? So provide the motivation in this part. It has to be engaging, as what Ma'am Amor emphasized kanina. The module should also be interactive. There has to be an interaction between the student and the module as well. So in this part of the module, provide the motivation, no? Bridge. This will provide bridge between prior experience knowledge to the content that they are about to learn. Okay? So what else next that we are going to put in our weekly course module? And then the part where you present the new material. So when you're doing a face-to-face, this part is the lecture part, no? So again, we divide this by topic, no? And then we provide examples, we provide explanation, we provide activity, we give the tables here, the diagrams, and of course, a lot of our literature would say that when you're preparing a course module for distance education or flexible learning, the tables and the diagrams are very helpful. No? And in this part of the weekly module, we also ask questions along the way. So remember that when we are doing a face-to-face, we do some questioning, right? So we can also do that in our module. No? So this is where you can put and choose from the teaching learning activities that Ma'am Amor presented a while ago. Next part of the module. Mark? Okay, so this is just showing you that in the past I have used YouTube, you know, to explain how-tos of teaching statistics and what to click on SPSS and all that. But also an emphasis right now that in the past, no, several years that I'm using TipCam, no, but when I was teaching statistics, I do a live demonstration on what to click. but I also upload what we did in our live because we're also considering that some of our students are not or different um, pacing, that the different pacing in their learning. That's why some of them would like to repeat and watch, and that's how they learn. So that's why I also upload it in YouTube. But in the past, I did not consider showing my face. But because this is flexible learning and we have to ensure that we strive for teaching presence, then if you look at that, there's a screenshot of the video lecture that I tried to do in preparation for our flexible learning. Sir Mark? Okay, so, and then in the weekly course module, give exercises, no? Next slide, Sir Mark. Okay, so then there's a part where you provide exercises to practice and for students to apply, for students to synthesize, no? You can actually include their activities, no? What are the websites that you need to visit, no? And learn more. What are the lab tools to explore, no? We have a lot of free laboratory tools. I've tried chemistry and even there's a simulation on what to do, and then there's an immediate feedback whether what you're pouring is correct or not, and all that, no? In this part, you can also have educational mobile app for more exercises. What are the software to try, and what are software to explore to be able to apply what they have learned. So this part of the module. I'm showing you an example from, I was a student of a distance education. That's why I know the feeling of a student in a distance learning, just like what we have now, no? So I was a student last year of UPOU, or Masters in Distance Education. And so I'm just showing you that this is an example of a course module, no? So you will see there, module number 1, there's an introduction, there's an objective, but of course in our terminology, it's an ILO, and then there's an explanation of the topic. So you'll see there 1.1, that's the lecture part, no? And so we as a student, these are what we're going to have and what we're going to read, no? Next slide. You will also see in the next slide that our professor, the acknowledgement professor, also showed some diagrams, and then there's a box where there's an activity. And you will also see there that there's a question, and of course there's a link on what to on additional exercises that will help us understand that diagram in case we need more resources to read. No? So again, figures, diagrams, and activity, they would help us in ensuring that our modules are interactive. This is an emphasis as well that the modules are written, like you are conversing to the student. That's why it's more of you and something like that, as you write your module. Next slide. There, so there's table and there are examples. You'll see that, no? So for those who might find that very small because that's a screenshot, again, you can have a copy of the slides. Next. And then there's an activity and there's another activity. So you will see there, read, and after you read, as you read the article, reflect on the following. No? A lot of our researchers will show us that reflection is very powerful. And then there's another topic on the same module. This is just week 1, okay? Because again, there is no lecture anymore that is face-to-face. The module will replace the teacher now, no? So it has to be very clear. It has to be conversational. Or the lecture, if you call it a script, okay, but that was a very helpful tip from Amor a while ago. Maybe you would it would be helpful if it is more of a letter. Okay. Next slide. All right, so of course, another required readings, a lot of readings, but of course, this is a master's degree. Okay, next, and some activities. All right, so pretty much you have the course details, ILOs, introduction, engaging activities, and then you have already presented the material and did the information input on the presentation of the material, and then you have allow your students to do some exercises. No, they can also you've also allowed your students to do some practice, or they can try to apply and synthesize. Of course, we need to also determine whether our students have learned. But you can also, maybe in the first module, there's no quiz yet, but maybe a reflection. And according to Costa and colleagues, students should be exposed to continuous reflective writing practices. This is even for college, so that they become producers and not consumers of knowledge. There has to be an opportunity to reflect on the experience. Next slide. So what are other ways of doing an assessment in the reflection? Maybe our students can do writing a 1-minute paper, or takeaways on a sticky notes, or they can do sketch notes, or they can do student created videos or blog as reflection for what they have learned in this entire module. So we can consider that. Okay. So question, at the end of the module, will they submit? Will they upload? It's possible that they can just reply and interact with the with the module, put some spaces there, and maybe then schedule when they will be required to upload their requirements or their responses. No, so formative assessments are embedded in the activity. So maybe on our assessment, they can respond to the discussion forum of our LMS. They can make reflection essay there. Next. So in this part, in the assessment, be very clear. Are they going to create designs? Are they going to create a material? Are they going to submit a creative project? Are they going to design a diagram or develop a program? Has to be very clear, no? Next slide. So in this part of the module, next slide please, provide students a complete guide of their assessment task. Again, allow me to repeat that that you are not there anymore to clarify. So our assessment guides should be very clear that our students will be able to follow exactly what we're asking them to demonstrate to us. Next slide. Okay, so we also provide other reading materials and resources on the part where there's additional resources. So these things we can put the contents in the template that we are sending you if you request. Okay, next. All right, so what are other materials that you can consider? Commons. So you can also go to UPOU Commons, and these are materials we can use that it's okay to use, and of course with proper acknowledgement. No? Next. So they are open educational resources. Next slide. Just showing you, this one is from the Commons, but there are several materials that you can see, from education to entrepreneurship to health sciences, that UPOU is sharing. And I believe there's also Commons, or a learning commons from Ateneo de Manila as well, and several institutions willing to share what they've prepared. No? Next. Okay, here also, language and ICT and mathematics, natural sciences. You can get the videos. Okay, okay, next. Okay, but this is just an example. I wish to click that, but we have a challenge in terms of our ICT. So I just want to show that That is an example of a type of model. I'd like to emphasize that it could be very challenging nowadays to prepare a module simply because uh, we did not we did not anticipate that there's going to be a pandemic, no, but when we are going to prepare our module and when we are going to prepare our resources, some of us may be overwhelmed, but we may not really start from scratch. Some of the materials in these commons are available for us to use. Okay, so they are free to access, yes. Our friend from Salai Community College. They are free. Next slide. Okay, so this also for my colleagues in the education department. We have a lot of OERs for technology, for teaching and learning. Okay, next slide. All right, so just a recap. Just click, 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 Sir Mark. So when we write the contents of the module, these are the things that we are going to write in every weekly module. No? But after you've written that, click. It's also very important to edit and revise. What are the things that we need to also consider? Give spaces on the module for students to write and respond. Okay, so you can be very generous with the spaces along the way. No, if you provide students to respond first before they move to the next, or have some formative assessment, self-assessment is very powerful. No? And of course, be mindful of the font style and the font size. Font size, the younger our students, the bigger the font size. No? Have a cover page and also a table of contents for all your for for your entire module. Some of them would say just write cover page and contents. Do not write the word table anymore. And remember not to violate the IPR. No, remember that when we send this without acknowledgement and you just copy paste, we might be placed in a very difficult situation, including our institution. So let's not forget to acknowledge, to write our resources and all that in our module. Have someone read your module. Sometimes it's very clear to us, but another pair of eyes will be helpful. Um, so it is also nice when you have the same module uh, for all faculty teaching the same subject or course. Okay, so that maybe some of us may consider that, or we are a team teaching purposive communication. So the module week 1 to 2 will be assigned to a particular faculty, so it's not going to be heavy in terms of preparation. No? And so for some of the universities, they have the editing team or a quality circle that would look into the module. Okay, but of course, we may not really be perfect this time because we're preparing the module like it's an emergency for emergency remote learning. No, it's our classes are already in August, so maybe what we need are maybe grammar and accuracy, maybe graphics will come next and like that. Very important accuracy, especially when you place there, these are the formulas, I di man siya correct. Okay, and these are the things that we need to consider. Maybe another faculty will look into that, and our department chairs and dean will help us, no? And again, this is going to be not very overwhelming, not very much taxing if we work with a colleague. Okay? But of course, myself, I am the only one. There's a certain course that I am the only one teaching, like statistics in a particular program, so really I work alone. Okay? Next. Next slide. All right. So I just wanted to show you that this is my other course as a student of UPOU. So there's another way of writing a module that's not really heavy on lecture part. No, it's just a guide for students on what to do. So just if you look at that now, module 2, this is our week 2. There's a basic information and there's intended learning outcomes, meaning that we're really told that, as a student, you are going to trace the development, you're going to describe something like that. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then if you look at that, the activities are just number one, download and review the guide. Number two, browse the module. And then read this, no resources to read. So what I'm trying to say is, you might want to consider this way, especially if you are new in writing the module, that you are going to tell the students at this particular week, respond to the quiz, do a self-assessment, read this particular website, download this PDF, and then respond to it. So it's just a reorder on what students are expected to do. Next slide. Okay. See, you see that? Number three, take the self-assessment. What I like about this is that the self-assessment is not part of the grade. But we do read. Nakakahiya naman, no? Na self-assessment. Makita mo na siya atong mga professor. But it's powerful. It's powerful in terms of you're able to determine whether you understood the concept. Okay, and then you notice there, number four, participate in the discussion forum. So in the learning management system, we can put there in the discussion forum the questions. So that would also be our way or a replacement or another way of doing a class recitation. Okay? But our students, considering their connectivity, that can be asynchronous. Okay? Next slide. Okay. Okay. So next slide. And then, of course, you have some announcement, we read and all that. Make sure you don't miss. See? What we wanted to also emphasize in this part is that if you have a module and you have a performance-based assessment, meaning you have a capstone project, assessment should come with an assessment guide. It has to be very clear. Remember that this is what the student will look into. So our assignment, I was a student here, our assignment or our capstone project for that semester is do a creative project. Click, please. But in this guide, it's clear. Click, please. It's clear what percentage of the grade will be considered here. Next slide, next click. Look at the task, okay? And then our professor says, you are going to do a creative project. But there's a definition. Because we can offer, what is a creative project? So a creative project for clarity. Remember, things have to be very clear in the module, in flexible learning. Click, another. All right, and of course there's specific guidelines, the groupings, you will see there number 10, that's my name. Okay, as a student, I know perfectly how it feels, that to have a very clear assessment guide. Next. All right, and then of course that's the assignment of the topic for the grouping. Next. So we can also do this, even if we're doing a flexible learning, we can also develop 21st century skill on collaboration and teamwork. We can also teach our students to work in the Messenger as well as in the Google Drive, using Google Docs, all that. So, and then of course, in this assessment, there's this clear expectation, what exactly are we going to turn in? Next, click, please. And then what is the advice from our professor? structuring, what exactly is the output, and what exactly will the product look like. Okay, next slide. Okay, and very important, the due date. And there's a time. Anything submitted beyond that is considered late. Or sometimes in our learning management system, we can block, not allowed to submit anymore, or if they upload in our grading feature of that LMS, the faculty will see whether that one is submitted and of what time, no? And then of course there's feedbacking, and we're also given rubric. So very, very clear. Next slide. Oh, so this is the look of USTP's module, course module. Okay, and of course there's peer assessment. I will talk about a lot of the ways for the new normal and assessment on our next webinar. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's the look of the content modules. I wish to share, but we have a limited time of what is the module that I prepared for my class. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, every course module or your course modules 1 to 18, if you have week 1 to 18, for some of the universities and colleges, they consider that the first part of their semester will only be for the first few sets of the subjects or courses. So they have week 1 to week 9. But in all those modules, there has to be a course guide. The course guide shows the way, it shows the way, it ushers the student on how to be successful in the course. Actually, this is suggesting to the student, even if they're going to submit on week 5, that at least on week 2, they have read this part, they have done this, because again, they would download all the resources week 1 to week 18 or week 1 to week 9, and then they would read, they would do all the activities and all that, but maybe you will only schedule every 2 weeks to meet live, every 3 weeks for submission of something. Remember, because we are not doing an online learning, it's a distance remote learning. So schedule the submission. But it is not a requirement to really be connected 24/7. So when you schedule that the submission is every 5 weeks or every 3 weeks, you are also in the course guide, you're going to help out the students that at least on week 1, they have read this already, they've responded to this, they've done this activity. That will actually help them as they move through the course. Okay, so next slide. All right, so this is an example of a course guide. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. Then there's assignment, what it looks like in some of the modules. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, the assignment, the project, and the course guide should include um, your contact details. So in the course guide, you will also here, no, you will see that there's week, and then what are the topics here, what module are they working on, and what exactly are the activities there. No? Just a description of the activities. And then you have, of course, the course mode, the course materials. Here you have the course outcomes, because this is a guide, no? But what I like here is this part, no? Please write your welcome note here, so that there's I don't know, a creation of rapport with your students. So what I do in that part is I write, dear students, welcome to this research statistics class, something like that. I'll show later if it's not going to be pixelated. Okay, next slide. There. Okay, so what I do in this part is I have, dear students, welcome to a wonderful world of research statistics. And then this course intends to acquaint and at the same time equip you with the working knowledge of something. And then you go from at the bottom. Of course, I tell them the focus of the course. And for some of you are already anxious since you have preconceived ideas of what the statistics. I want to assure them, no, I wish to inform you that our class will not be heavy on math skills. It is understood that they're not expected to be statisticians. So what I'm going to assure them is that they're just going to learn what tools, how to interpret. It's not really on deriving why the ANOVA has M over something. It's not that because it depends on your students' context. No, if they are a math major, then maybe I'll do that. But usually for research stat, my students are language from the language department, from the education, from SPED. So they need the statistics and the skills for that to decide on things. No? Next, next slide. Okay, so this is the look of a course guide. Okay, then you write the course requirements, is the grading system, some important reminders, maybe what will students have to do to succeed in your class. This is not a good term. And then, of course, instructors' details so that our students will get the message that should they have difficulty, should they have clarification, that they can contact you. So usually write all my contact details from email to messenger to Facebook to Twitter and of course my mobile number. Next slide. Okay, so I think that's it. If I may share, maybe if it's not pixelated from my end, I can share. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, so that's an example of a course guide from my professor. So you will see.
Medyo pixelated siya.
Talaga, no? I think coming from my end talaga, no? So anyway, I will share that. Okay, so even this one, Sir Mark?
Yes po.
Okay, so maybe that would be it. I hope you were able to get something from my sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc Amphi. That was very detailed and informative presentation despite the glitch in the technology.